Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope you're having a great Thursday wherever you are, or if you're listening to this on a Friday, happy early Friday. It's just Thursday for me in the time zone that I'm in. I hope you guys have all had a wonderful day. Right now it's 7:30-ish my time, so if you're listening to this, I hope you had either just a great day overall, or if you're getting ready to listen to this at night, happy nighttime. That's what people say. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, and I think it's going to be a little bit more special for me and for you guys. Obviously, you guys all know I like to do my podcast kind of talking about all things sports. We've covered the Super Bowl, we've covered Big 12 basketball. I did a little brief stuff about the Waste Management Open, and then I kind of did a Big 12 tier ranking yesterday. But today it's going to be giving you guys a little bit more insight about me and kind of get to know me a little bit better. You see the person through the screen if you're watching this on YouTube, or you just hear the person if you're listening on Spotify. But I want to let you guys in a little bit more of my background, where I kind of come from, and how I got to this point in podcasting at the moment. And I'd like to call this segment Coffee Tots. So I have a big little comfy chair that I'm sitting in right now, which is actually really, really comfortable. And it feels nice too. You lean back and just get comfy. So we're gonna all get comfortable together. We're going to get calm. We're going to just reminisce and listen to some of Annabelle's story time. Got I said it's coffee tots, but since it's 7:30 p.m. at night, you really should not be drinking coffee then. I was going to record this episode this afternoon, but I had homework to do, and homework comes first. When you're a student, it should always come first. So right now I have tea, which still works. So grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, grab water, grab milk, grab orange juice, grab whatever you want to drink, and we're going to get right into my stories. And this is just really warm tea too. I just literally got hot water and mixed lemon juice, tea bag, and honey. So this feels good. And set that down so I don't spill all over myself accidentally. So I want to kind of start from the beginning with you guys, but not so far as into my childhood. I want this episode and my coffee talks to be about my education, what the education I went through to get here as a college student about a university, but kind of taking you guys through like the intermediate, the elementary, middle, high school stuff, and how that shaped me kind of into the person I am today. And education, oh, hiccup. Education is not really something that we talk about a lot, I feel like, as just either people. I feel like it's not something students, if you're a student listening or watching, I don't think it's something that we feel obligated to talk about, which makes sense because we're always so focused on school and extracurriculars within the school. It's either schoolwork, homework, extracurriculars, and then a repeat cycle. And we kind of repeat that for about the 13, 14, 15 years of our lives when we really think about it. So I don't remember much of my preschool years because I was about 4 years old at the time, and I'm in my very early 20s now. So that's about 17 years ago. I don't remember what happened 17 years ago, but I started preschool at 4 years old, made my way up to kindergarten, and then obviously you go up grade level by grade level. So I think something that's really fascinating and something that doesn't cross our minds from a student perspective is we've been getting introduced to school. School has been nothing new, but we first were thrown into the education system at about 4 years old, which I would say is like the mean average of when kids first get introduced to the schooling aspect of things, where you go to learn shapes, you go to learn your colors, you go to learn maybe basic numbers and words. And even though it's not as advanced as what other grade levels are, is really not supposed to be. But we've been going to school for more than half of our lives, and we don't even realize it because we started at 4 or 5 years old. And for like high school kids, that's probably the last 12-ish years of their life. For college kids, that's probably the past 13, 14 years of their lives or whatever. But I went to preschool. I got some of my education there. I moved up then to kindergarten, and kindergarten through second grade were my elementary years. Actually, kindergarten through third grade were my elementary years. I'm not gonna say I was the smartest person in school because that is a lie, and we need to be truthful here. I was not necessarily the smartest kid in school, but that also doesn't mean that I didn't want to, give it my best effort. And I'm gonna talk about effort more as I get on to my high school years, but elementary is still kind of an introduction, just kind of moving on from the preschool level of stuff. So kindergarten and first grade, you're learning how to form sentences together. You're learning more numbers. You're learning more colors. You're getting introduced now to some aspects of science. Then I would say first and second grade is really when social studies starts getting integrated into curriculum. I don't remember being a great math student in elementary, but that's been the case even as I've gotten older. Math has never been my best subject. Neither really has science, and to an extent, social studies. ELA, I would say, was probably the subject in school that I had excelled in most, which is kind of, when I look back on it now and I take into perspective kind of my whole personality, the ELA just fits the narrative of what my personality is. I like to I like to write out my thoughts. I really don't like speaking out the thoughts. I love putting my thoughts into writing. I have a hard time trying to make the words come out of my mouth when I want to be vocal, but I found that writing my thoughts down, writing what other people might be thinking, is the best form of how I can express myself to either family or friends, teachers, people, etc. But I've just never had the talent to be great at subjects such as math and science, which is a lot of numbers. It's a lot of, equations, if you will. It's a lot of formulas and stuff. And my brain just doesn't really put two and two together as well as some other students do. And that's okay. And I think we need to really acknowledge and accept the fact that nobody is ever going to be great at all core subjects of school. If you're not good at one subject, there's another subject that you know that you're good at, and that's what you should really take in and relish in the fact. You can't get caught up in putting yourself down just because you're not good at math, for example, but you're really good at ELA. You're going to use language arts through your entire life, whether you realize it or not, right? You're always going to be writing in some shape or form. You're always going to be reading stuff, which is reading is a very important topic, I believe, in our education system today. And I wish that I had had more reading classes, especially in intermediate school and my high school years. We're always going to use ELA, and we're always going to use math. But whatever job you might find yourself in, you can be doing basic addition and subtraction. You don't, if your job is like a journalist, for example, you might have to do some math to add up some numbers and collect some data to put together your article and stuff. But if you're an engineer, for example, you're going to be using a lot more algebra, geometry, calculus, pre-calculus, all the other subjects in math that I can't really name off the top of my head at the moment. But you're also going to be doing some writing too. So you can integrate about 4 or 5 subjects into one big work job. But if you know what you're good at and you know what you excel at best, stick to that. Explore a variety of interests that appeal to you and sound good to you within the writing community, or find stuff in the math community, find stuff in the science community. If you're a history buff, do some history, read some history books, watch history documentaries, whatever floats your boat. Do what's best for you and how you learn best. I think intermediate school was, I believe, the first real, if you call it an introduction to how I learned best. And when I look back on it now, and when I reminisce on my intermediate years, what I can remember a little bit from, it wasn't until high school that I found out what kind of learning technique works best for me, but it's always been there, even dating back to intermediate school. And at that time, I think I was just too young to really understand it. But I learn best with visual graphics. So if you can have either a Venn diagram or like a graph, a data chart, just any form of imagery in front of like a presentation, I can immediately understand what's going on. I need an actual visual picture to picture what it looks like. I don't do well with lectures, so when there's a lot of words written either on a PowerPoint or on the whiteboard or blackboard, my brain just has a hard time comprehending all those words that are written down. And then when your teacher is going at a pace where you can't keep up, it's just I take a lot slower to actually read the words, write down the words, and then by the time I'm trying to finish it all up, they're always already moving on to the next point in the lecture, which is not the teacher's fault at all. And it's not to the professors. It's just how I prefer to learn. So if you're kind of struggling with paying attention with lectures, if you have a hard time keeping up, what I like to do is I just look at the words for a second. I write down what I think is important in that presentation slide at the moment, and then I try to kind of create an image around it and pick out also keywords that I had looked at in the brief second. So, and you can always ask for help too. If your classmate got some of those notes written down and you don't have all of them, just ask the classmate if you can look at their notes, for example, and say, hey, I didn't really get all of it down, what the teacher or the professor was saying. Can I see what you have written down and kind of add to my notes? If you're nice about it, I'm sure no one would really have a problem with it. Or also go up to your teachers too. Tell them that you're having trouble keeping up and understanding some of the content. What I've learned throughout my years is that teachers are there to help you and they want you to succeed. And they're never going to know if you're struggling or if you need help if you don't come to them first. They might have some assumptions if you might not be doing well, but they can't really fully 100% guarantee that unless you go to them. That's something I have struggled with in the past before, and something that I still to an extent struggle with today. I have a hard time going up to teachers and asking them for help because I feel like they're going to either tell me no. I feel like if I ask for help, that's a sign of weakness, and they might think I'm not as smart as some of the other students in the class. Those are just insecurities that I have. Some of you might have them too, but I can fully 100% say that when I get over the fear of talking to the teachers and I go and do it, by the end of our conversation, it leaves me feeling a lot more relieved and I feel a lot of stress coming off of me because I made the move to go to them first. Middle school, my middle school years were a bit of a roller coaster. It was a lot of up and down. That's really the first time where I started to see some of my grades kind of slip a little bit. And I looked at that and put it down to me really not putting in the work and putting in the effort that I knew I should have invested into middle school. I got decent grades in middle school, but they could have been a lot better if I had turned in assignments on time. I was never really good with deadlines. If I had, again, gone and asked for help instead of assuming that I knew how to do it on my own. And if I had asked family for help also. I know that my family was more than willing to go and help me, but again, I was just too stubborn. I thought that I could do this on my own and think of myself as being a really smart student. And I I also kind of resonate that to my brothers were just better students in school than I was. They were the ones who were really great at math, really great at science, really great at history, and they were always the ones who could do well in any subject in school. Now, they weren't, and they were decent at ELA stuff too. Whereas for me, I knew that I was never going to be a good math student, no matter what level of math I would be taking. So I just had to power through my math courses. I just had to, put in the work, put in maybe just a little bit of extra time outside of school and focus in on the homework that I was doing. I learned how to study a bit better. My studying methods in middle school compared to right now have changed so much, but they've stayed the same as well. I don't do well with studying just in all in one setting. So if I have a study guide, for an example, I just can't study for a test for 1 or 2 hours straight. If I do that, I'll start to get even more anxious about the test. I'll start to feel like very fidgety, and then my attention span just vanishes. So I like to do it in 30-minute intervals. I'll look at my material. I'll study for 30 minutes. I'll take about a 5-minute break to just relax the brain a little bit, just get some stress reliever out, let the brain calm down, get like some water or a snack. And then after I've had that 5-minute break for myself, I'll go right back into doing either my homework or I'll go back to doing my studying. And that's a tip that I like to recommend to you guys as students too. If you need a break, if your body and your mind is telling you to take a break, take a break. Don't try to focus for 2 or 3 straight hours if that's not your cup of tea. I feel like if you spend too much time studying and you're studying in very long intervals, by the time you take your test or you take your exam, whatever, your mind has just been reeling at such a fast pace, like over and over and over again. By the time you see all of this, it just goes right past you. So if you need a break, just take a break, even if it's a really short 5-minute break. They help for me. I know they might not help for some of you guys, but it is something that I would recommend and something that I still do in college to this day. Good example would be I had an exam today in one of my classes, and we had a study guide of about 20 pages. So I would take my study guide, I would study it, maybe write down some key terms here or there that I feel like would be the most important for me to know on this exam. I would do my 30 minutes. I would close my laptop, put my study guide away out of sight so I couldn't see it, and then just calm myself down for about 5 minutes. I would use it to get up, walk around my room, get water, go to the bathroom if I had to, then I would come back, grab all the school stuff out, and repeat the cycle again until I felt content with what I had achieved and what I had studied previously. High school. Talked about some of my middle school years. Let's go into high school now. High school was really where I had to start thinking about what I wanted to do in the real world. That's not really an answer I think we can all really truly think about when we're freshmen or sophomores, but when you're juniors and seniors, you're thinking about where you want to go to college. If you do go to college, you're thinking about what kind of workplace you want to go after graduating from high school, and you're starting to, I think, develop bigger thoughts and expressing bigger feelings. My high school years, just like my middle school years, was a lot of roller coaster. We would go up and then I'd just go down and up and down. It was never truly consistent. And again, I attribute that to me just not putting in as much attention and as much detail and as much focus into my work as I should have. And that was just a me thing. That's not something my parents could control. That's not something my teachers could help when I wouldn't turn in my assignments on time. That's not something that my counselors or other siblings and friends could do for me. That was all on me. And I really kind of started to come to terms and accept that in college. I was pretty involved in high school with some extracurricular activities. I did cross country all 4 years. I did cross country in middle school too. I was a 6 year senior, my senior year for cross country. I was involved in speech club, which I really enjoyed. And I also had band and FFA. Speech, if I had to choose one of my favorite extracurriculars that I did in school, I would say speech, for the mere fact that speech was probably one of my first introductions to the world of media and the world of writing and journalism. I I did speech as a freshman, and then I did my junior, my senior year of high school too. But something not a lot of people know about me is that I am not a very outgoing person. I'm very introverted, which comes as a surprise, I feel like, to a lot of people who know me personally when they say, "Oh, you're introverted, but you're so outgoing, you're so like willing to put yourself out there." But if I had the chance to, I like to be alone in my own personal space. I like to kind of digest what I'm thinking about. I like to have my peace, my privacy, my just my time, my Annabelle time. I don't like going up to people and striking conversations with them unless someone else initiates it first. And I just socially, I'm not a very social person. And that's also something that I came kind of really started to come to terms with in high school. But speech, doing after dinner speeches, which is where you just are free to write about whatever you want as long as it's under 5 minutes. You have requirements, so you just implement the requirements into a fun 5 minute speech. It can be funny, it can be serious, it can seriously be about anything. My freshman year, I did an after dinner speech about the 2017 Iowa State Cyclones, which was really fun. That was the year that they made it to the Liberty Bowl and won. My junior year, I did a speech about cats. My favorite animal is the cat, and I thought that would be kind of a fun and interesting topic to try. And then my senior year, I did kind of like a fiesta theme. So talking about kind of Spanish stuff, Spanish culture. I was born in Guatemala City. My birth parents were Guatemalan and El Salvadoran, respectively. I have the Guatemalan flag up there. So it's a nice reminder of my roots and my heritage. So those are all three different topics, but they were fun for me to explore. It was fun for me to kind of trans trying to transform into a different character, if you will. I had to play a cat for my cat speech. I think I was a student in Spanish for my fiesta speech, and then I was like an Iowa State staff employee for my freshman speech when I was talking all about the 2017 cyclones. And we're gonna take a break for a sec so I can sip my tea. So that was kind of high school. Speech did, I feel like speech really did help me with some of my social anxiety. It did not make all of the anxiety go away. And when on the topic of anxiety, uh, if you deal with anxiety, just know that I get it. I struggle with it too in some shape or form, but whether it's general anxiety or social anxiety or any other form of anxiety, what I reckon is that it's never going to truly go away. You can work on it to minimize it as much as you can, and you can get to a point where you might feel comfortable, going up to strangers and making small talk with them. But it's never gonna really truly go away. But you just have to figure out ways to cope with it and ways to deal with it that's best for you. How I deal with my social anxiety is I have to do deep breathing. So take a few deep breaths in, deep breaths out. I need like a few minutes to myself where I can just calm down and then do some self talk, trying to rid myself of all the negative thoughts going through my head and trying to replace them with positive thoughts of, instead of worrying whether or not things will take a turn for the worse, just reminding myself, hey, it's probably not as bad as you might think. It's all in your head. And when you do it, you're going to feel so much better. That works most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work. So I have to acknowledge the fact that if I try to self talk myself positive things, the outcome still might be negative and it might not work. So it's just different situations just call for different techniques. But the anxiety's been there for me. I most of my during most of my school years, I was just again really young to truly grasp what anxiety meant. But when you get to high school, like I said, when you have all these big thoughts and like these bigger feelings and you're thinking a lot more things, I think it just all comes crashing back down on you, and then you have that little aha moment. Junior year of high school was my COVID year, believe it or not. I made it through one semester of my junior year of high school. And then my second semester, I went for about, I would say about 2 months maybe. I know we came back for second semester in January. Then we had till the end of February. And I believe right at the start of March is when we were in a global pandemic. My senior year of high school it was really interesting. Junior year, I did a lot of remote work through Zoom. I was doing classes on Zoom, staying at home. It was just a weird time for all of us. And I think COVID-19 also really didn't help with the social anxiety of stuff because we were at home for 5, 6 months, however long we were. We couldn't go out and talk to people. We would have to either Zoom with them, call them, text them, whatever. We would also have to be away. We would also have to distance ourselves 6 feet with talking to relatives and whatever. But I I actually feel like that's where my social anxiety got worse because I was not going out and talking to people on a regular basis anymore. I was at home with my family, which I not to take away from my family time with family, but I think times with my family there just strengthened our bond to where we are right now as a whole unit. But I wasn't going out talking to my friends. I was talking to them either through text or through a phone call. I wasn't going out and talking to adults. I wasn't in a school environment where I was surrounded by other students and I was surrounded by other people who knew me. So trying to throw myself back into that whole position as a senior of high school nonetheless, it was hard. We had to wear masks my senior year. I think the entire school year. So I couldn't really read people's lips. I couldn't see people smile or people talk without having just a big cloth covering their mouth. But it was interesting times. But I made it through senior year. We graduated. That's all that matters. And this is where I kind of started to question how good I would be outside of basic, K through 12 schooling. So I got my diploma, which is amazing. Felt really proud of that. And for any of you upcoming seniors too, just know that you should feel so proud of what you have accomplished pretty much when you were 4 years old, going on to either 17 or 18 right now. That's about that's actually kind of a 14-year gap if we think about it. 13 or 14. If you're 18 when you graduate and you started schooling at 4 or 5, that's a long time. You spend a very, very long time going to school to learn how to work in a job, how to do normal tasks in a work setting, know how to put yourself out there in the real world. And that's a big accomplishment. So just round of applause right now for all you students who have done that. That's fantastic. I know your families are proud of you. Your teachers who taught you and got you to where you are right now are very proud of you. And you should feel proud of yourself also. But unlike unlike some of my friends and my sibling, I did not go to a 4-year university right away, which again, when you have the time to kind of think and take it all in, not going to a 4-year university right away was the best decision and the best outcome that could have possibly happened to me. I went to community college right after graduating high school. I went to Scott Community College for 2 years. At the time, my major in school was just a basic liberal arts. So I knew I wanted to try to do something my first semester up at Scott. I knew I wanted to try to do something with either criminal justice or writing in some form, but I didn't know what that really looked like. But I believe at the end of my first year of college, I had declared an Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice, which criminal justice was an interest of mine, even back in high school too. I was really fascinated with all these criminal justice shows. I would listen to a few criminal justice podcasts, and I found it really fascinating and really intriguing. I knew I wanted to try to get into a sort of area of juvenile delinquency. I wanted to be helping people. That's also kind of where my personality comes from. I love to care for people. I love to feel for people. And I just want to help them be the best people they can be. But helping others just makes my heart feel so happy. And that's where I get most of my happiness and joy is by helping other people and seeing them do good things rather than myself, if that makes sense. But I knew I wanted to try to do something with juvenile delinquency. It wasn't until I believe the last 5 or 6 weeks of the summer leading up to my second year of community college that I had to stop and take a break and think, well, is criminal justice the right path for me and my personality? I know most of my personality is by being very caring and by helping people, but doing juvenile delinquency, you would have to be visiting some of the juveniles' homes. doing parent interaction, going to meetings and stuff. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized that's not who I am as an individual, and that's not who I am if I like try to really think and where my personality lies. So I had a talk with my parents. We had came up with another plan, seeing what else I was good at. We have to play to the strengths that we have. We can't try to go and declare either a major or stuff that to you might be fun and interesting, but if you know you're not really good at that subject, or you know that you're not gonna have fun and you're not gonna be fully invested in it, don't do it. That's just wasting your time. You're wasting money by paying for classes that you know you're not going to enjoy, but it's something that you just want to do. Stick to your strengths, stick to what you do best at, and really try to find an area where you know you can see yourself with a job in the near future. So after talking to my parents about that, it was too late to change my major at that point in my schooling. I didn't want to have to add even more classes when I already had criminal justice classes lined up for the next semester. So I graduated from Scott Community College in May of 2023. I started my school in August of 2021, so I did the full 2 years. I graduated with my Associates of Arts in Criminal Justice. I don't know what I'm necessarily going to use that associate's degree for. I know that I'll have it in my back pocket, and maybe I'll use it to write books about the criminal justice system, or I'll use it for projects down the line if it ever comes up. But my second year of Scott was really spent trying to think of, well, what major can I do once I graduate from community college and go up to university? What universities are going to offer me the best education and the best teaching to where I can truly learn stuff about the major of my choice and what I want to do as a career. Right now, I'm a student at the University of Northern Iowa. It's a school up in Cedar Falls, but when I really stopped to think about it again, I always knew I was good at writing. I knew I wasn't good at the maths and the sciences, the social studies, the histories, all the core subjects that they teach you from K to 12. So I really had to hone in on the ELA. I knew I loved writing. I knew that I was somewhat decent at writing. People people like to tell me that I'm a great writer. I like to think of it as decent, but I knew that I love to write, I love to read, and journalism is a career that's seemingly taking off a lot more lately. And luckily for me, the University of Northern Iowa happened to offer journalism. So that's where I am at right now. My major here is digital media journalism, and just recently I decided to tackle on a minor in public relations too. I'm taking a lot of PR classes this semester in the spring. I'm really enjoying them. I feel bad for saying this, but I think I'm enjoying my PR classes more than my journalism classes. But again, changing majors too. If you're a first year student up at a university and you're not liking your major, it's not too late to go and change it. Obviously, if you feel like it's not right for you, you should talk to somebody, either talk to your admissions counselor or your counselor up at the school, talk to your parents, see if they agree with you, and then try to brainstorm some more options as to what you might want as a backup of sorts. I didn't really have a backup plan in mind during community college, but I'm really fortunate and really lucky that I came across this journalism major here at UNI. And adding a PR minor too, I think will really help in the journalism field of things. If the journalism doesn't work out, at least I'll have a public relations minor degree of sorts to take with me. but I'm trying to earn my bachelor's of arts in communication and media at the moment. And since I'm a junior, I'll still have another full year of schooling left, but it's when I look back on my education journey from preschool up to you and I, there has been so much growth. I've had to do a lot of growing up. I've had to do a lot of maturing. I've had to do a lot of, you know, thinking and self-reflection. And my education journey hasn't ended yet, but I'm nearing towards the end of it. And my advice to students out there, if you're a student in school, just know, just keep going. Ask for the help when you need it. Don't try to do everything by yourself. That's not healthy for you. That can take a toll on your mental health. Just asking for help is not a sign of weakness. As I've come to realize, it's a sign of strength. It's a sign that you're willing to accept the fact that you need help, and by getting the help you need, you're going to succeed in life. To all the teachers in the world out there, you guys have a very hard job, I feel like, but it's also a very rewarding job too, when you can have your students in their class and send them off towards the next chapter of their life and see them grow and become some of the best people in their respective industries as they get older. And to all the viewers out there, I hope that this episode was kind of more of an insight to me. I hope you learned a little bit more about my educational background, what I kind of dealt with in my education to get to where I am now, and how I'm dealing with all the stuff. School is stressful, and to people who say school is not stressful, you go to school to learn so you can make money and have jobs. That is true, but no one's ever going to really feel how stressful it is unless they walk in your shoes. I know school is a stressful time. I have been stressed so many times dealing with deadlines, dealing with assignments, dealing with extracurricular activities, and you have to balance a school life and then a personal life outside of school too. And it can be all overwhelming. So you do deserve breaks every once in a while. Tell yourself that if you are getting overworked, just ask for a break. Taking a break does not mean that you aren't strong enough to complete it. It just means that you need to take a step back, focus, breathe, regroup for a little bit, and then head back into what you're doing with a clearer mindset. And I think that's all for this episode today. Thanks for watching and listening to the Ace for Waves podcast and enjoying coffee talks, even though it's really not coffee, it's just a cup of tea for me at the moment. I feel like tea is really good too. I would drink tea and coffee every day, but that's kind of not healthy for your body. So, with that, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll come back next week. Stay tuned for some of the more sports talk that I have planned out, and have a great rest of your night/day/evening. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.